things that was occurring to me as I was listening to all these perspectives, each of which seems to me powerful and potentially viable in the context in which it's articulated. The thought that occurs to me is, what if there is no solution to this conflict? I think of Manuel Levinas, and I think of his statement, coming back to what we said last night about this ethics of responsibility. A thou must which takes no account of a thou can. What if we can't? What if it can't be solved? What if all these good and viable solutions in other contexts, conflict resolution, forgiveness, finding the right political solutions, what if none of them work? What do we do? What do we do in cover? It seems to me that's something like what we're facing here. I don't think any of us have any illusions that we can gather a group of people together and put them in a room and say, okay, now it's going to work. What if it doesn't work? I mean, are we ready to face the fact that no solutions here may work? Then what we need to do is think, the only thing left to do at that point is think how we got here. And maybe, a friend of mine has a book called The Scarcity of Hope. Maybe hope will be possible in figuring out how we got here in the history of scapegoating, and that will open the possibility for a future from this place on, but not thinking about what can be done. Maybe there's nothing that can be done other than what we can do to take responsibility for our own relationships with others here and now.
I'd like to say something in that respect, and I think you're absolutely right. We're sitting here theorizing. When you go there, I was at the movies one night with one of my Israeli friends with whom I compulsively go to the movies, and a huge crowd turned up, young people. And I said to her, what on earth is that? And she said, oh, something that's been going for a couple of years. It's called One City, Two Peoples. And I think we tend to forget that people get tired of violence. And what is going on at the grassroots level is actually extraordinarily interesting in Israel. And I think this is where it's going to happen. It won't be that we find a solution. It's just that somehow there's something organic starts, and people come to the realization that the other is the same as themselves, only through practical experience.
I'd rather hear from the question. Okay, please. Maybe if you ask questions or comment, just tell us what you are going to do. And if you want to address a particular person, please also identify the person you want to get an answer.
It's a question theoretical, but I hope practical.
Okay.
It's a question that I think is somewhat theoretical yet practical. I've heard the mimetic theory expressed in many ways regarding the trilogy stemming from Abraham. There's certainly lots of examples from the New Testament supporting the sacrificial idea in the New Testament. But I'm wondering, what I have not heard is any examples supporting this theory from the third member of the trilogy, which is Islam. This, to me, causes concern, because if there's truly going to be a way of solving this problem, and listening to Sandra Goodhart, I share that concern. I don't see how it's possible without all three members buying into the idea of the mimetic theory, the sacrificial theory, and therein starting the process of arriving at a common understanding.
I feel I'm almost speaking about the elephant in the room, and that is the notion that Brian Blunt brought up, the idea of shared future. And here I think I speak as a sociologist of religion, that Islam is a factor. In other words, there is something about Islam, the notion of Dar el-Islam, and a lot of the people we have heard and we dialogue with are not people who are part of that world of Islam. So I don't think right now, in that sense I agree with Sandy, and this is a very pessimistic view, Wolfgang, forgive me, that I don't think we have yet a dialogue with people who are ensconced in the world of Islam. By that I mean, follow the Sharia, go to the mosque, run their life by Islamic rules. With those people, there may not yet be a shared future. In other words, Sheila spoke about this 2 cities for 1 people, right?
No. One city, 2
One city, 2 people. One city, 2 people. And but these were all happening in Israeli cities. In other words, what I'm saying is we cannot ignore what you mentioned, the history. There's a history in theology, and I myself do not see yet that we do have dialogue partners within the world of Orthodox Islam. I know Wolfgang was in Iran recently. I'm always a little doubtful, Wolfgang, when I hear people saying, oh, I found a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian with whom I can dialogue. And I always want to know, what troops do they have on the ground? Do they represent the real world of that community? And my point here is that there are a lot of voices, and we need to be certain we're hearing the voices really of the people themselves rather than projections of Western intelligentsia. And I think that bespeaks the danger of easy solutions and really gets to the issue of the difficulty and perhaps current impossibility of a solution.
Can I add one comment?
Yes. That gives me the opportunity to just respond to Charles. First of all, you can be pessimistic as you are able to do. As religious people, we should have some last hope, and therefore we can stand.
Pessimism goes very well with hope.
Yes, yes. So therefore, there is no compulsion to be optimistic. Secondly, I was not going to Iran to search for people I can dialogue. I was going to Iran because I was invited there, and found out that one of the major universities is collaborating with a Mennonite university in Canada, and are interested in establishing peace studies there. So I think that we should support and find out what's going on in this direction. Please.
It's just focusing in on the part of the question that I felt was the most relevant, and that is there any intellectual effort directed towards interpreting the mimetic theory and giving quotes from the Quran, from the Hadith, from Sharia law, any sources? I didn't hear anything in that regard at all.
I'm not sure about that, but I do know a couple of my Muslim colleagues in London who are interested in Girardian theory, to what extent this is generalized. I'd just like to comment on what Charles said. Some years ago, I went with a group of Israeli peace activists to a little town called Bidu, the other side of Jerusalem, where they were to meet up with a group of Palestinian women. And they were very simple Palestinian women, they were lovely women. And some very simple things came out of this. For example, 2 of the Israelis belonged to a group called Grieving Parents. They had both lost a child in this conflict. It transpired that some of the Palestinian women had also lost a child in this conflict. So it was agreed between these 2 that they should make common cause with their association of Grieving Parents. So they made one association that was Grieving Israeli Parents together with Grieving Palestinian Parents. Now I think we can keep talking about interlocutors, but I get back again to the grassroots level. The Muslim people are wonderful people. There are some nasties among them, but then we Christians have got some nasties too, and so have you Jews. So I think we've got to get back to the fact that we are talking all the time, but they are doing it. And they're doing it much more than we can possibly imagine unless you go there.
As I grew up, one of those conflicts was the Northern Ireland one. That it would never be solved. It has this huge history. And yet something has happened there. And I was wondering if in the future, because there's so many different ways we could look at what happened, but to look at it from the viewpoint of mimetic theory as just a way of saying, or the South African one, of saying here's something where we really had a hugely deep problem. It has reached some form of resolution. What are the elements from our perspective in mimetic theory that we could deepen our understanding of it and then bring it into this dialogue? Thank you.
Mrs. Barr was on that.
Okay, okay.